Hi everyone, today I'm going to show how to use an old Nikon lens with a Sony A6400. The camera model isn't particularly important here. What is important is that these two cameras have a different mount system. So this is an old camera that I had with this lens. This is a pretty good lens. It has got an aperture of 1.4. It's a 50 mm prime lens. So I love shooting with this, and it retails for about $450, and I got it used for about 200. I wish I could continue using it on my new camera. As you can see from the notation, this is a 1.4G. Some of the older Nikon lenses had a 1.4 D, or they followed the D notation. Those lenses had a separate aperture ring, but this one does not have an aperture ring thing. So the first adapter that I'm gonna talk about is from Photodiox, and you can see the product code on the box. It says Nikon to NEX. I'm assuming that's their nomenclature because it's gonna work on the older NEX cameras as well. So getting this adapter out. So as you can probably see, this is a completely, there is no optics in it. So all it does is that it provides the right distance so that the image from the lens gets focused on the sensor correctly on the Sony. So let's get it mounted on the Sony. Just removing the lens that we have, and then there is a red dot here. You just align it with that and rotate it until it snaps, and now we have the adapter mounted. We're gonna take this lens out and mount it here. So there is another red dot and a white dot here, so just align those dots and turn it. So this adapter does not have any aperture ring. So what happens is that this lens is now fixed at the smallest aperture that it has, which is the highest aperture value, which is something like f13 something. And if you see, the display here actually does not show any information, because there is really any information from the lens, because there is no connection, no electronic connection between the camera and the lens. So the camera just does not know what lens it's using. The camera is just processing the image that's falling on the sensor, and it's showing you the image on the screen. So the F is blank, and so for the same reason, there is no power going to the lens, so the autofocus also does not work. You have to manually focus it and take pictures using manual focus. So the biggest downside for this is that the lens is stuck at the smallest aperture. This is not really giving us the benefit of the 1.4 f1.4 that this lens provides, because we want to have that shallow depth of field, and that's the reason that people go for lower f value lenses. So the other adapter that I'm going to talk about, which is gonna finally work, is another one from Photodiox, but the product code, it says Nikon G NEX. So this is meant for G lenses. So that's, as I was talking about before, that G lenses actually do not have an aperture control ring. So this adapter comes with an aperture control ring, this gray ring that we see here, that can control the aperture of the lens, which is mounted on it. So I'm gonna show you how to dismount the lens from the adapter, just because it's a little bit tricky. This knob here needs to be pulled back. It's a very clicky one, so it's a little bit hard. So, and then you rotate it, take the lens out, and then take the adapter out, and then mount this other adapter. Also has the same way, red dot to the white dot. Sorry, I was mounting it the other way. red dot to the white dot and rotate until it snaps. These adapters have very good construction. It's really solid, it feels solid. And the white goes to the red and click. And the same way to release it, it has this release clip here, and then release it. So now we have this this aperture ring to control the aperture. This does not really give a discrete aperture control, so it just closes it from the widest to the narrowest. And I like taking pictures at almost the narrowest all the time, and especially when I'm shooting portraits, and also that's pretty handy. And once we have this lens mounted, it's the same thing, that the manual focus is the control for focus, and we're just going to use the camera body to decide the shutter speed. So I have set it to aperture priority mode the whole time, and just set the aperture from this aperture control ring, and let the camera body do the rest of the work. The camera can decide what shutter speed to shoot on, and then you can decide what is the focus point that you want to. Especially with the peaking feature of the Sony bodies, shooting with manual focus is also pretty easy. I feel like sometimes it's more helpful than an autofocus. So it makes it really easy to use my old lens with my new body. The camera feels a little bit bulkier, but that's a sacrifice that I would give to be able to use an old lens on this new camera that I have. I also have another Nikon lens from the kit, which came with the D5100. This is the kit lens 1855. This is a pretty standard kit lens, so that can also be mounted on this adapter the same way. And yeah, it does look a little bit bulky once it's mounted, but it gets the job done. So one last thing that I wanted to show people who are curious about how the aperture control works is that this is the lens that I was working with, and basically it has this tiny little knob kind of thing which changes the aperture, so you can see the aperture widening as I turn this little knob. So the adapter actually can the ring in the adapter can actually turn that, because the adapter has this little thing here. And so once we have this lens fixed with the adapter, then if you see, I am twisting the dial, and with the twist of the dial the aperture is opening and closing. So that's how it works. There's really no electronic connection. This is just purely mechanical. So to conclude, I would like to say that this adapter with the aperture ring actually works really well for me with this G lens, and this costs only about $22. The one without the adapter ring with the aperture ring costs $20, which is just $2 cheaper, and it doesn't really make sense with this lens. So this the results are pretty good. I'm able to focus pretty well and get those shallow depth of field shots. So I'm completely satisfied with this, using this adapter with this lens. And if you are looking to use something with the fast autofocus with the Sony body, you probably have to go for an adapter which supports more features. There are adapters out there which can provide you with autofocus or aperture control, but they are obviously more expensive. With this adapter for $22, you can't really ask for more. This gives me a viable way to use my old lens with this new camera, so that's pretty good for me.